In Buddhism, there's this concept of dependent arising, and one of the key concepts in Buddhism is the interconnectedness of things, right? And in terms of timeline, it's simply expressed as right now is the result of event in the past, and the future is the result of the things that are going on right now. And this video isn't really about one topic in specific, but it's more of like a general topic video about where are we really headed towards. Now, some context around this is I saw the news from Korea about there being some gyms in Korea that have this idea of a no senior zone, right? And I think this is more or less a Korean thing, but in Korea there's a concept of no kids zone. Because why? A lot of parents have basically taken their children and just let their kids run free in cafes and restaurants and things like that, and people don't really do the parenting, and the business people got fed up with it and started having this culture of like, sorry, no kids, so like it's called no kids zone. And then it became like a whole social thing where you have this cafes that are supposed to have a turnover, right? People come, get the coffee, and then talk for a little bit, and then leave, and then things like that. But now in Korea, because there are so many cafes, something happened, and it's like people just bring their whole laptop and all these things to study, and there's lots of like government exams in Korea, so there's a lot of things to study. So they bring that whole thing, and then they buy one Americano, and then they just stay there all day. And there's no turnover, basically, because the cafe is constantly full with people who just come in the morning and study all day. So now there's this idea of a no study zone, right? And then now we have this idea of a no senior zone. And understandably, the seniors are very upset at this. But if you really think about it, this is kind of predictable, right? And the more society becomes okay with banning certain types of people from certain establishments, the more common all those like discriminations will be, right? And now, based on other societal behaviors, what's gonna be banned? Well, largely the powerless people, right? Largely the minorities, regardless of what society you're in. Because you never want to deny service to the people who have power, which is i.e. money. And so these types of policies generally favor the powerful over the minority. And now what will happen as a result if this continues? Society will become more extreme, right? Because now you have more things to lose by being a minority, and you have more things to gain by being powerful. So the quest for power is going to go off the charts, and then basically Korea will be not a really good place to live. And it's already sort of happening because number one suicide rate, and I think it's number two recently, but anyway, and the lowest fertility rate. It's already happening. And this all is basically the product of, ironically, being one of the leading countries in Asia, right? And so, Korea, during its development, had a lot to learn from, i.e. America, after the Korean War. And secondly, it had the next door neighbor, Japan, which was doing really well until the bubble collapsed in Japan's economy. And you have China next door on the other side. So you have this great amount of examples to follow, basically best practices, and you get to see what to do and what not to do. And that's why Korea has this like really rapid growth, right? And it's like the fastest broadband internet and esports, K-pop, and all these things. So there's a lot of really good things. And I think I talked about this in my stream a few times too, but when I was little, people didn't know where Korea was and what Korea was. But nowadays, people ask me if I'm Korean first, and then they start speaking to me in Korean first, without me even prompting them. So In my 30 something years of experience, it's kind of crazy to witness that, right? And but I also know that it comes with a lot of these like societal downsides. And now a lot of foreign laborers are working in Korea, because now when you get, paid like crap in Korea, even if it's like crap pay and minimum, less than minimum wage in Korea, it's a lot of money in their countries, right? And so Korea has become kind of the America for other Asian countries. And now the Buddhist monk I follow, who is kind of my teacher, the Venerable Pomyun Snim, he's doing a project in Bhutan, and he has a lot of Buddhism exchange programs with Vietnam. And something that he always tells the other Asian, Buddhists, up and coming Buddhists, is when you look at Korea, don't look at only the good things. Look at the flip side of suicide. Look at the flip side of hyper competitiveness. Look at the flip side of materialism and over-consuming. Look at the flip side of low fertility rate and what causes it. Because Korea was modeling only after the good, right? But because it's only looking at the good, it has the tendency to significantly neglect the bad. There's no balance. When other countries, yeah, they had to go through the good and the bad to come to the stabilizing state. But they didn't have to experience this kind of extremism. Now, then, am I to say natural is better and extremism is bad? It's less about that, right? What's important here is every kind of development, every kind of social structure has its own distinct set of pros and cons. And this doesn't just apply to society, this also applies to human beings as well. So you may think that your upbringing is really bad, and I completely understand that you can have exceptionally traumatic backgrounds and negative backgrounds. But in the grand sense of things, you cannot preclude that everything about your upbringing is solely a minus. And even if were born with a literal gold, silver, and bronze spoon in your life, now it will be very difficult for you to engage in difficulties in your life, challenges. Because why? Everything used to be so convenient for you. And it comes with, like, for example, if you have a lot of resources and you were growing up, you typically are like the gifted child, right? Because why? You have a lot of educational resources that your parents didn't have at that age. And then now, until high school, you don't really have to study, and then you go to college and then you get a rude awakening about what it means to be average now, right? And so these things are very common. And so no matter what kind of an upbringing you have, I want you to know that it always comes with this distinct set of pros and cons when compared to other types of upbringing. And again, the video topic now, socially, in general, right? What kind of seeds do we want to plant? Maybe if we have been engaged in extreme growth, maybe it's time to take a step back and let the natural balance just kind of come in. If you've been living in the natural balance and the sinusoidal wave of good and bad and good and bad and good and bad, maybe it's time for you to try some dedicated, exceptionally pointed and extreme kind of things just to see what it's like. But in the end, we want to, of course, reduce your suffering, right, with your life. But at the same time, if you're the only person thriving and the rest of the world is suffering, it tends to not make your life that enjoyable too. So with the perspective that the person next to you's joy is basically your joy and happiness in a savings account, keeping in mind that the joy and the happiness that you're feeling today is other people's joy in a savings account. How can you invest in that happiness and make it go around the world? What kind of actions do you want to do today to spread more joy and lessen the suffering in people's lives?